Hey everybody, it's me Edward Jones, aka Daniel Kuhn, and this is a very fitting hat for this video. This is just a short book review on the American classic Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harry Beecher Stowe. I just got done reading this book yesterday. I purchased the book a couple of months back, and I read it sporadically. Um, I gotta say, when you read this book, one of the things that's maybe might be hard to get through is, I guess, the vernacular, many words and speech that was used during the time this book was written. This book was written in 1852. Um, it's Southern. I'll put it like that. It's Southern. Um, I want to start off this video by saying this. I wanted to read this book because I've heard I've heard for many years the term Uncle Tom used as a pejorative, as kind of a disgraceful thing to say to primarily black men if they seem to back ideas, I suppose, that are they don't push a particular narrative. Oh, by the way, if I seem to be speaking pretty slow, I'm recording this at 4:15 in the morning. It's Friday, and I just got off work. I just got in the house about 16 minutes ago, so I had a long day, but I had the energy to do this book review, this short review. Yeah, so the term Uncle Tom gets thrown around as pejorative, primarily towards black men, if they have an if they espouse having ideas that don't toe a particular narrative about white supremacy, about the white man having his foot on a black man's neck, woe is me, poor black people, poor black folks, and so on and so forth. So if you speak out against that, you know, you're often called Uncle Tom. And I'm going to say this in this video, that if you're one who has used the term Uncle Tom as a pejorative, and you decide to keep using it, even though this book has been available since the mid 1800s, and you continue to use that term, you're a sad little creature. Because if you actually read the book, you would know that to be called Uncle Tom is really a term of endearment. It really is it's a good thing to be called. Overall, not just as a black man, but as a man overall. I'm saying man because, like I said, it's primarily black men who are called Uncle Toms. I think some black women, if they kind of have the same idea, they call Aunt Jemimas, some nonsense like that. Anyway, the story takes place in Kentucky, and it's about a character named Tom. He's called Uncle Tom by many other characters in the story, kind of because he's somewhat he's a popular man on the plantation, the Shelby plantation that he's grown up on, and he's held in high esteem amongst other slaves, amongst his masters, and his master's son. And the book follows his journey through the U.S. because he had to be sold to pay off a debt by his master, Master Shelby. And the story also follows a small tale of another slave whose son was to be sold along with Tom. The son's name was Henry, and if I remember correctly, his mother's name is Eliza, and she's a mulatto. She's mixed. She's half black, half white. So is So it's her son, and she herself has a husband named George, who he's owned by who has a terrible master himself, and basically the story follows on the journey of what happens to Tom when he's sold, and what does Eliza do when her son has been picked to be sold to a trader, to be sent to the South. Now, in the book, it talks about being sold into the southern states as being one of the worst things that could happen to anyone who's bought a little closer up north because of the work that's done, how they work the slaves in the far more southern states. And so in the story, it bounces around from Kentucky down to Mississippi, down to Louisiana. Part of the story goes up into Ohio, and it's a very good story. Um, I encourage all Americans, especially American black men, to read this book. It's do you understand why it actually is an honor to be called an Uncle Tom? Because you would have read the book and you have known the meaning behind it, and you're not just taking the words of someone who's trying to put you down because you have a different idea. And that's something that I get, like I said, I wore this hat because a video I did and someone called me a coon. They called me a coon because I basically said that, if I remember correctly, I did a book about Booker T. Washington, and I said he was right. And I was called a coon for that. So, and it's Daniel Coon, for those of you who are new to the channel. It was the book. It has lots and lots of lessons that that delve into humanity, that delves into Christianity, most importantly, because the abolition movement during that time was headed by members headed by Christians. Harriet Beecher Stowe herself was a Christian, and many of the Tom is a Christian. He's strong in his faith, very strong in his faith. Many of the characters they also have they're strong in their faith. Some of them actually they struggle with it, and there are a few others who have to be reintroduced into it, or to be introduced to it overall. I won't spoil the story for many of you who are watching this video and who have not read the book yet, but it's a really good book. I gotta say, nowadays it's very important. I think this book should be found off the shelves if it's not doing so right now, because with the way social climate is, and everyone's running to call someone racist, call someone a bigot, this, that, and the third. This book should be read. It really puts into perspective what was the situation during that time, how it affected people of different backgrounds, different colors, different social status, and how how many of them have moved about and move along their journey in the story. And Stowe, she made a lot of the characters from personal encounters she's had on different plantations, different slaves that she's met, different people that she's talked to, stories that she's heard from them, and that's how she was able to formulate formulate the plot for the story, formulate the characters, how to create the message she was trying to get across. And it was also in an indignation, I hope I'm using the right word, it really was pointing a finger at who ire should be directed towards during that time, and it was actually towards those in the North, because like I said, I won't spoil it, but I gotta tell you, there's a character named Saint Clair, and he really digs into Northerners in a way that can be said, in a way that the same thing can be said about today's liberals, today's white liberals. I'll just leave it at that. I'm telling you, this book was actually is ahead of if she could have seen what's going on now, it matches exactly what's being it matches exactly what's being told in this book. Um, I gotta say this is one of the greatest books I've ever read, and I think it was actually this book was the second bestseller worldwide behind the Holy Bible. And if you, like I said, if you read this book, you'll see why. So I wanted to give my endorsement for Uncle Tom's Cabin. It's a great American read. Um, like I said, I encourage everyone, especially black men, to read this book. And after you read this book, you will no longer want to use the term Uncle Tom as a pejorative. And anytime someone wants to call you that, you know why they're calling you that. Chances are they're calling you that because they haven't read the book themselves. And you can take with great pleasure knowing that you're being called that because you decided to think differently. You decided to think on your own. You decided to make up your own mind about your own personal thoughts and feelings, and not have them dictated to you by someone else who claims to know what's good for you, i.e., claims to be who wants to be your master. And there's actually a pretty good line in this book that slaves would be tyrannical masters if they were given the chance, and that says a lot about the attitude of slaves in the book, and in a sense, how many people who are woke nowadays, if they had reigns of power, they'd be they would be tyrants themselves. They just haven't had the opportunity to do so. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm saying this was a great book. I encourage many people out there to read it. Again, I encourage all black men. Aside from just all Americans, I encourage all black men to read this book. It's a very good read if you haven't read it. But those are my thoughts. Please share your comments in the comment section. If you read the book, please tell me what you think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Have you ever been called Uncle Tom? I may have only been called that maybe once or twice in my life. I've been called the Coon and been called Oreo, as I mentioned in a previous video I did, more times than none. Very rarely have I ever been called Uncle Tom, but like I said, I'm aware that if I ever called that, I'm aware with a badge of honor, because it's a great thing to be called. Please leave your comments in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to stay tuned for new videos, and please check out all the videos that I've made. Any gripes, complaints, send me a PM. My secret to address them. You want to call me Uncle Tom? So be it. But that's my video. It's a book review of Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'm Edward Jones, aka Daniel Coon, and you guys take care.